Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese will team up once again when 2019 sees the release of their latest picture and possibly their last movie collaboration, The Irishman. It's being hyped as the last great gangster movie, and not least because the stellar cast, which includes the likes of Joe Pesci and Al Pacino, the latter having never worked with Scorsese previously. However, some film fans have questioned whether the senior citizen actors are right for their roles in the movie, whether Scorsese waited too long to make the film, whether the cast are past their prime, and them playing characters who are decades younger than them is laughable. I've mentioned in previous videos that I think that even in their advanced ages, I believe Pacino and Pesci have it in them to give great performances. The question mark for me, interestingly, hovers over De Niro himself. In the past 2 decades, let's be honest, De Niro has been embarrassing. His roles in films like Dirty Grandpa and Little Fockers are eye-rolling. Now, De Niro is well within his right to make films for fun or just for the money. He's already reached a status most actors dream of, but that doesn't make his recent pictures any better. His phoned-in performances have been uninspired, and where it was once a guarantee that having De Niro in a movie meant it was good, now it means avoid that film at all costs. De Niro has clearly lost that intensity to seek out promising projects, but I'm more concerned with his performances than the quality of the films themselves. You can make the argument that his lame performances in bad movies have been roles taken for a paycheck, so he might not be motivated enough to give a great performance. And what with his new business ventures, it's possible acting isn't his greatest interest anymore. However, he has been in a few critically praised movies like Silver Linings Playbook. Among his cringeworthy displays like in Red Lights, he's also given some decent performances in films like Being Flynn and The Wizard of Lies. My scrutiny is with these performances, because though he has given good performances, he didn't seem like he was playing a character in these films. He still looked and sounded like Robert De Niro, with no mannerisms or tics being distinguishable between the roles that gives each character a unique feel. He's just playing himself, and though many great actors do, the De Niro that we all know and love was exceptional at transforming himself into his characters. When you'd watch Heat, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, The Deer Hunter, etc., you'd forget that you were watching an actor because he was so amazing at convincing us that he was these men. All his roles in these films feel different, and this is where his recent performances, even the good ones, don't match up because he's just playing De Niro over and over again. And I feel that if he shows up to The Irishman giving a performance similar to his recent ones, it's going to massively derail the film, mainly because the movie revolves around his character. Even when he worked with Scorsese on The Audition, which granted wasn't made to win Oscars, he was pretty cringy. It doesn't help that he's in the news quite a lot these days also, and gives many interviews. Sometimes I think, and actors like Kevin Spacey have mentioned this, that it makes it harder for audiences to detach their image of an actor in real life to his on-screen roles if you see him giving interviews constantly. But what you can't deny with De Niro is that he is going to give it 100%. How do we know this? Because the project is his. He was the one who read I Heard You Paint Houses, and he was the one who approached Scorsese for the project to be made. His good friend is arguably the greatest filmmaker alive, and he's been so busy with other projects which has delayed The Irishman, and yet De Niro stuck with him when he could have approached other directors like Michael Mann or Brian De Palma. He has mentioned several times before The Irishman began production that the project was being taken very seriously. So clearly this is not going to be a quick-fire money grab role. Heck, look at the cast they brought together. No way is De Niro at least not going to put in the effort. The only question is whether his effort will be enough. Will this be another merely decent De Niro role like he's given 1 or 2 of recently? Or will Frank Sheeran become as famous as Travis Bickle, as Jake LaMotta, as Jimmy Conway? The latter is my hope and my expectation. If he does okay in the movie, I'll consider it a failure of a performance because anyone who has read the book will know he has to knock it out of the park, and I'm hoping he's still got the intensity and ability to transform himself into the role of Frank Sheeran, because clearly at least he's got the motivation. I'm expecting an actor's director like Scorsese would have noticed the red flags and act accordingly if De Niro didn't bring his A-game to the set when filming. De Niro is in safe hands, and in every Scorsese film he has delivered a magnificent performance. But it still has to be mentioned that his last Scorsese film was over 20 years ago, and he hasn't really shown the world since in recent years that he can deliver a performance of that standard. I'm hopeful though, and I do think he will deliver the goods. The role is expected to be moderately physically demanding. I've shared set images of him seemingly throw people through doors and punch and kick people in the streets. Now, casting such an old person in such a role has its drawbacks in that they'd be less emotive, repeated takes are more exhausting, and you can't move like a young man as much as you want to. De Niro's really fit though, especially for a 70-year-old. He has mentioned he does work out. For the marketing for Dirty Grandpa, where De Niro's character is holding Zac Efron up, Efron says that De Niro really did pick him up all by himself. It's good news because it's really important for the film that De Niro can pull it off physically, being able to move like a man 30 years younger than him. Otherwise it will look really weird seeing this elderly pensioner kick the crap out of gangsters, and Frank Sheeran was well known for being physically imposing. In terms of his looks, judging by set images, I think De Niro looks pretty good, especially for his age. Whereas Pacino and Pesci will be pushing these CGI de-aging whizzes hard, De Niro doesn't really look too bad. He doesn't look like a 30-year-old, but doesn't look 70 either. And obviously the CGI will do the rest. Despite his performances, he has always looked pretty cool even in his recent crap movies. All in all, The Irishman relies on De Niro giving a satisfactory performance, as he'll be the glue that connects all the characters in the film. During scenes where Sheeran is in his old age, you'd expect De Niro not to have any problems since he's, old. He has the attributes to keep up with the physical demands of the role during Sheeran's prime and will put in a shift. It just remains to be seen whether he's still got the magic touch. Thanks for watching.